I was reborn and returned to the age of 15. My eldest sister, who had married into the Marquis's household, was about to pass away. On her deathbed, she begged the Marquis to take me as his second wife, to become the stepmother of her children. Yet, just 3 months after her death, the Marquis sought to marry my younger sister instead. On the day of my wedding, my legitimate younger sister looked at me with a face full of disdain and arrogance. I knew that my legitimate younger sister had also been reborn in her previous life. She married a poor scholar and had always envied me for becoming the legitimate wife of a Marquis's household, enjoying endless wealth and glory. But she didn't know that the Marquis's household was a den of wolves and tigers, where everyone was a cruel and perverse individual, and the poor scholar she married in her previous life eventually became the Prime Minister. I died with my eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace. The Marquis's servants dismembered my body, which was then thrown to the dogs, just because I witnessed the Marquis and his stepmother's scandal. That day, in the Marquis's ancestral hall, I saw 2 white, intertwined bodies and screamed in fright. The next second, my scream was cut off abruptly. The Marquis thrust the sword into my chest. Before I died, I saw his stepmother's face splattered with blood, feigning panic as she shrank into the Marquis's embrace. My body was disposed of completely by the household servants afterward. News spread from the Marquis's residence that the Marquis's wife had gone missing, and a reward of 10,000 taels of gold was offered for her return. As soon as the news broke, the entire capital was abuzz with efforts to track me down. Yet at this very moment, my spirit hovered above the Marquis's residence, coldly observing all that unfolded. 5 years ago, my eldest sister, who had married into the Marquis's family, passed away from illness. Before her death, she begged the Marquis to marry her younger half-sister me as his second wife. The Marquis tearfully agreed to her request. In the 5 years I was married into the Marquis's household, the Marquis treated me with extreme coldness. He only put on a show in front of outsiders. In order to maintain the dignity of being the first lady of the Marquis's household, I had always believed that the couple was deeply in love, and that the Marquis was wholeheartedly mourning my eldest sister. But it wasn't until I died that I discovered the man by my side was actually a jackal. No, it wasn't just him. The entire Marquis's estate was a den of wolves and tigers. Because of my soul state, I have learned many secrets of the Marquis's household. For example, the Marquis has been having an affair with his stepmother for over a decade, and together they murdered the old Marquis. For example, the Marquis and his 2 brothers have always had a penchant for torturing and killing women, and the dry well in the rear courtyard is filled with piles of bleached bones. For example, the Marquis's heir, despite his young age, has already indulged in all manner of debauchery, having played to death several young boys and girls. The Marquis's household finally announced my death. My funeral was extremely grand, with invitations sent to all the royal relatives and nobles throughout the capital. At the funeral, the Marquis and his stepmother wept as if their hearts would break, nearly fainting from grief. Everyone praised their deep affection and respect for me, but I just want to vomit. My soul left the mourning hall and drifted toward the side room. Coincidentally, I encountered my stepmother and stepsister. My birth mother passed away early, and I was raised by my stepmother on her lap. My stepmother was kind-hearted, treating me no differently than her own daughter. Although my younger sister is a bit spoiled, she doesn't have any bad intentions. Seeing my family, tears immediately welled up in my eyes. I rushed over, wanting to embrace them and pour out my grievances, but my spirit merely passed through their bodies lightly, leaving no trace at all. "Oh, right, I'm already dead." At that moment, my younger sister suddenly spoke. "Mother, since second sister is already dead, it's my turn to remarry into the Marquis's household, isn't it?" "Don't talk nonsense," her stepmother spat at her. "Your brother-in-law may be a bit poor, but in all other respects, he is first-rate. All you think about is remarrying. Have you no shame, mother?" The legitimate daughter protested. "It should have been me who married into the Marquis's household back then. I'm the one worthy of being the lady of the Marquis's house, a mere concubine's daughter, and she thinks she's worthy. I never imagined my legitimate sister would see me in such a light." And my heart instantly turned cold. But what came next from my legitimate mother shocked me even more. "What do you know?" She pinched my legitimate sister hard. she's marrying into the Marquis's household to watch over the heir. Your eldest sister gave her a sterilizing drug back then. She can never have children in this lifetime. Back then, her mother was pregnant with a boy and actually wanted to give birth. I had Mother Liu administer the drug, killing both mother and child outright. Both mother and daughter are equally worthless lives. Without children, she is just a grasshopper in the palm of our hand. She can't jump far. My younger sister began to pout and sway my arm. Mother, I don't care. I want to marry into the Marquis's estate. The Liu family is poor and destitute. How can they compare to the Marquis's immense wealth? If I marry into the family, I can take care of the young master too. Second sister is still a step removed. After all, I am mother's own flesh and blood. Hearing her say this, the principal wife softened her tone. This still needs to be discussed with your father. The mother and daughter walked away together. Arm in arm, I was left standing in place, feeling as though those words had struck me like a thunderclap. For spring came and went, and autumn followed winter. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed since I was confined within the Marquis's estate. 8 years ago, my elder sister successfully divorced her husband and loudly proclaimed her intention to marry into the Marquis's family as the principal wife. Unfortunately, just after the engagement was settled, a sudden illness took her life. I know it was the Marquis who, tired of her pestering, poisoned her directly. After my legitimate sister passed away, the Marquis used the excuse that he was cursed to bring misfortune to his wives and vowed never to marry again. The entire capital praised the Marquis for his profound sense of righteousness, but I knew that since the troublesome person was gone, the Marquis and his stepmother had become increasingly bold in their actions. Not only did they engage in illicit relations, but they also brought a group of men and women to indulge in debauchery in broad daylight. If someone lost their life, they would throw the remains into the dry well at the back of the estate. Day after day, the dry well filled layer upon layer with bones, until one day 10 years later, a group of soldiers stormed into the Marquis's residence. The young man leading them gave the order, and all the masters of the Marquis's household were bound and forced to kneel before the ancestral hall. Reporting to the chief minister, a soldier reported, "We have excavated 103 skeletons from the dry well in the backyard, including both men and women. The youngest appears to be around 11 or 12 years old, and it is a female corpse, 103, 11 or 12 years old." The young chief minister silently repeated these two numbers to himself twice. He turned around and kicked the Marquis to the ground with one foot. Though covered in filth, the Marquis still shouted with a fierce but hollow bravado, "Lu Tanshu, my Yang family ancestors were founding heroes of the nation, and we have the iron certificate of pardon here. What do you think you are? How dare you come to my Marquis's residence to arrest someone? The iron certificate of merit, a founding contributor." Lu Tanshu laughed in extreme anger. "The emperor is already well aware of what the Marquis's residence has done. He asked me to ask you, when you commit these atrocities, do you still remember the glorious feats of your ancestors? Do you still remember that as royal relatives and noblemen, you should be seeking the welfare of the common people? You are facing death and still refuse to repent. I see no need to preserve the 100-year legacy of this Marquis's estate." With that, Lu Tanshu raised a torch and threw it directly into the ancestral hall. Amidst the wails of the Hu family, the ancient and decaying ancestral hall was quickly engulfed in raging flames. In the midst of this inferno, I felt my consciousness gradually fading. When I woke up again, my eldest sister, who had passed away many years ago, was sitting right in front of me. Her face was pale and sickly, as if she were gravely ill, yet her eyes sparkled brightly. "Wana," she said, "your eldest sister is about to die. After I pass away, would you be willing to marry the Marquis and become the new mistress of this household?" 5. In my previous life, I remembered this day until my death. That day, after hearing what the eldest sister said, I immediately agreed. As a concubine's daughter, being able to become the second wife of a Marquis's household was already the best marriage possible. It was like a pie falling from the sky, leaving me dizzy and disoriented, but I was young and ignorant back then, unaware that all good things come at a price. My thoughts shifted in an instant, and the next moment, My eyes welled up with tears. "Big sister, don't say such discouraging things." I held her hand and said, "Tomorrow, I will go to Qingshu Temple to offer incense and pray for blessings. Your health will surely get better." Big sister avoided my gaze. Even if she had made up her mind to push me into the abyss, she seemed unable to face my kindness directly. "I know my own body well. I'm just holding on day by day." Big sister paused for a moment, then slowly clasped my hand in return. "It doesn't matter if I die, but the marriage alliance between the Gu family and the Marquis's estate cannot be severed. Father and the old Marquis have been close friends for many years, and your elder brother's career also needs the Marquis's support. After marrying into the Marquis's estate, you will become the Marchioness and can help the family more." My eldest sister listed many benefits of me marrying the Marquis. Yet the one thing she didn't mention was, with a stepmother like me, who is easy to control and shares a blood connection, the heir can be assured of a lifetime of security. The heir is the only son of the eldest sister and the Marquis, though only around 12 or 13 years old. He has already begun to show the inherent nature passed down through the Marquis's lineage. Any maids or servants in the household who caught his eye were quickly pulled into his bed, spending their days in constant debauchery. The elder sister had long been aware of this matter but, due to her indulgence in her children, did not exercise much restraint. But if she were to die, and a shrewd stepmother were to enter the Marquis's estate, the position of the heir would certainly be lost. These were things I only came to understand after my death in my previous life. If parents truly love their children, they plan for their long-term future. As for the others, they were merely stepping stones for maternal love. I sneered inwardly. My mind quickly calculated ways to refuse. Just then, the door was suddenly pushed open. My legitimate younger sister, dressed in red, rushed in hurriedly. Seeing my eldest sister and me holding hands, my legitimate younger sister gritted her teeth and pushed me aside. "Big sister," she urgently grasped Big sister's wrist. "I'll marry, after you're gone, I'll marry into the Marquis's estate. Second sister is just a concubine's daughter. How could she possibly be worthy of being the main wife of the Marquis's estate?" 6. In my previous life, this had never happened. My legitimate sister was taken away by the maidservant of the Marquis's household and did not appear. Under my eldest sister's gentle persuasion, I readily agreed. Yet the legitimate sister before me now was travel-worn and covered in sweat. Could it be that my legitimate younger sister has also been reborn? I sat to the side, carefully observing my legitimate younger sister's actions. My legitimate younger sister held onto our eldest sister's wrist, shaking it as she tried to persuade her to change her mind, allowing herself to be married into the Marquis's household. That's right, in her previous life, my legitimate younger sister died before her marriage to the Marquis's household. She had no idea that the Marquis's residence was a den of wolves and tigers. Seeing her younger sister's actions, the eldest sister's face turned pale and ashen. For me, her half-sister, she could be ruthless, but her younger sister was after all her own flesh and blood. How could she bear to let her jump into the fire pit? "Do you think being a Marquis's wife is so easy?" the eldest sister scolded. "The Marquis's household has strict rules. You've always been arrogant and domineering. How could you survive in such a deep, secluded mansion? If second sister can do it, why can't I?" The legitimate younger sister sharply interrupted the eldest sister's words. She widened her eyes, a pair of 3 white eyes appearing particularly unreasonable and overbearing. "Big sister, are you crazy? I'm your own flesh and blood, your biological sister. You're just biased." As soon as she said this, Big sister's face turned as pale as paper. Her hand tightly gripped the edge of the table, her internal energy surging, and in the next moment, she spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. "Madam, quickly, go fetch the imperial physician." The maids in the room rushed over in panic, some helping the eldest sister catch her breath, others fetching medicine. The legitimate younger sister, the instigator, stood to the side, at a loss. 7. Only after returning home did I learn why the legitimate younger sister was so anxious. Father returned from his hometown, and in the carriage was a young man. The young man appeared to be around 16 or 17 years old, with delicate features and a slender figure. He wore the plainest of green robes, Yet his eyes were deep and sharp even though he was much younger. I recognized him at a glance. He was the Prime Minister, Lu Tanshu, who had set fire to the Marquis's ancestral hall in my previous life. Even within the Marquis's estate, I heard many rumors about him. They said that Lu Tanshu, at a young age, became a top scholar and gained the emperor's favor. Rising swiftly, they said that Lu Tanshu was an honest official with outstanding achievements, deeply beloved by the people. They said that Lu Tanshu was unafraid of the powerful, dared to speak directly, yet was slippery and adept at navigating both sides. Lu Tanshu was the husband of the legitimate younger sister in her previous life. In his youth, my father had two close friends. One was the deceased old master of the Marquis's household, the other was Lu Tanshu's father. When they were young, the three of them traveled the world together and formed a deep friendship. During their conversations and laughter, they once made a pact that their children would also be bound by a marriage alliance. However, when it came to the younger generation, only the Gu family gave birth to a daughter. Thus, 13 years ago, the eldest sister married into the Marquis's household and the Lu couple had long since retired to a rural village. With no news of them, it wasn't until father returned to his hometown this time that, after much inquiry, he discovered the Lu couple had already passed away. Only their son, Lu Tanshu, remained, who had passed the imperial examinations at a young age. Father, remembering their old friendship and admiring Lu Tanshu's talent, brought him back to the capital first, to have him prepare for the imperial examination, and second, to fulfill the marriage agreement from back then. But, I will not marry, the legitimate younger sister cried and made a scene. Elder sister is about to die, and I could have taken her place to marry into the Marquis's household and become the Marquis. I refused to marry some poor scholar. Nonsense. Father's beard bristled, his eyes wide with anger. Your eldest sister wants your second sister to take her place. What are you getting involved for? Upon hearing this, my younger sister from the main wife's side threw an even bigger tantrum. Why should second sister get to marry into a Marquis's family, while I have to marry such a penniless scholar? I am the legitimate daughter of the Gu family. I don't care. I want to marry into the Marquis's estate. Father was so anxious that he raised his hand to hit someone, but was stopped by his legitimate wife. My legitimate sister's tantrum completely ignored Lu Tanshu standing to the side. The young man stood in the shadows of the corner, his eyes lowered. In my previous life, I had little interaction with him. After the engagement with the Marquis's estate was set, I stayed mostly indoors in my courtyard, quietly preparing for the wedding. I only heard rumors that my younger sister, the legitimate daughter, was extremely dissatisfied with her own marriage and cried and threw tantrums every day. It was just that in the end, I couldn't resist my father's insistence and had to marry into the family in tears. I looked at Lu Tanshu's frail figure and suddenly remembered the way he once stood before the ancestral hall of the Marquis's estate, with raging flames behind him. That fire extinguished the prosperity and splendor of the Marquis's estate. It also ignited my rebirth from the ashes. Lu Tanshu is the future Prime Minister, and the one who destroyed the Marquis's estate. If I wanted to take revenge, attaching myself to him would undoubtedly be the easiest way. Forget it. I'll marry, I said softly. My voice was not loud, but it immediately drew everyone's attention. What? My legitimate sister couldn't believe it. I said, I'll marry him. I met my legitimate sister's gaze, as well as those of my father, my legitimate mother, and Lu Tanshu. The young man's dark eyes were filled with astonishment. After my eldest sister passes away, my third sister will marry into the Marquis's household and become the Marquis's second wife. I said, I have come to marry brother Lu, to fulfill the marriage agreement between the Lu and Gu families. 8. Hearing me say this, my legitimate sister was somewhat surprised. In her heart, no one could give up the immense wealth and status of the Marquis's household, but soon, she proudly lifted her chin. After all, she is headstrong, and I have always been extremely deferential to her. In her mind, the marriage arrangement for the Marquis's estate is like a bracelet, a pair of earrings. If she wants it, I have to give it to her. But my father and stepmother are somewhat hesitant. After all, before this, the eldest sister specifically wanted me to marry into the family, but in the following days, the legitimate younger sister persistently pleaded and coaxed, and the two of them softened their stance for our father. What mattered was fulfilling the promise of the engagement from years ago. It didn't matter which daughter married whom, and the eldest sister didn't inform our stepmother about the specific circumstances of the Marquis's household. For the legal mother, she always believed that benefits should stay within the family, and she had some reservations about the eldest sister choosing me after the two of them agreed. The only remaining obstacle was the eldest sister. But within a few days, news came from the Marquis's residence that the eldest sister was seriously ill. In my previous life, after my engagement with the Marquis's residence was settled, the eldest sister held on for a month before passing away. Over the course of this month, she poured her heart and soul into paving the way for the heir and clearing obstacles, and among these actions, one included serving me a bowl of sterilizing medicine. But in this lifetime, the eldest sister was so enraged by her legitimate sister that she coughed up blood and seemed on the verge of death. Those cunning schemes and strategies had not yet been put into action. When we arrived at the Marquis's residence, my eldest sister was lying on the bed, her face pale and ashen. The young master knelt beside her, weeping profusely, while the Marquis sat at the bedside, wiping his tears with his hand, yet his eyes showed no trace of sincerity. Afraid that the hatred in my eyes might be noticed, I quickly lowered my head. "My lord," my eldest sister's voice trembled as she raised her hand, "we were young when we married, and have been husband and wife for many years. You know all the hardships and patience I've endured over the years. Before I die, I only beg you for one thing: marry my younger sister as your second wife. She shares blood with Lina, and she will surely protect him well." The Marquis quickly grasped her hand. "Rest assured, I will do as you ask." Only then did the eldest sister breathe a sigh of relief, her final wish fulfilled. Her complexion had also improved slightly, as if a fleeting return of vitality. "Please all leave," she said. "I want to speak privately with my younger sister." After everyone had left the room, the eldest sister gestured for me to come closer. "Younger sister, I know you are kind-hearted. The young master is your own nephew. You must protect him well. Don't let others bully him." The elder sister's breath was faint, but her tone was earnest and resolute. This earnest and resolute maternal love had also earnestly and resolutely pushed me into the abyss of despair in my previous life. I looked at her, my lips curling into an eerie smile. "Bullying him? Bullying whom? Big sister, are you referring to your son, who at the age of 10 stuffed a maid and a stray cat into a sack, then beat them with a stick, causing the cat to bite the maid to death?" The world suddenly fell silent. The older sister suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with disbelief. "You, how do you know?" "You," she tried to prop herself up, but she was too weak, only able to gasp for breath. I laughed. "I know even more than that," I said softly. "I know that the Marquis had an affair with his stepmother and caused the death of the old Marquis. I know that the entire Marquis's household is depraved, engaging in debauchery with both men and women, and the dry well in the backyard is filled with countless skeletons. I also know that you want me to marry into this family, then give me a sterilizing drug, forcing me to cling to the heir for the rest of my life. Elder sister, you truly have a clever plan." The elder sister lay on the bed, looking at me, the disbelief in her eyes having turned into terror. "Guess how I know all this?" I lowered my head and whispered softly into her ear. "In my past life, I married into the Marquis's household under your schemes just like this. In the end, I died with my eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace. Do you think marrying me off will lead to a good outcome for the young master? I tell you, 10 years after my death, the Marquisate was stripped of its title and destroyed. The entire family was executed." Hearing this, the eldest sister shook her head in horror. "No, no, you can't. You must save him. Save Lina, save." The big sister's voice abruptly ceased. She lay on the bed with wide-open eyes, her body devoid of life, her pale eyeballs bulging and ruptured. She died with her eyes wide open, just like me in my previous life. 10. The funeral of the eldest sister was extremely grand. All the imperial relatives, nobles, and high-ranking officials in the capital were invited. At the funeral, the Marquis and his stepmother wept uncontrollably, nearly fainting. Everyone in their hearts marveled at the depth of their love for the eldest sister. In the corner of the funeral, father and the legitimate mother pulled the Marquis aside, informing him that their third sister was preparing to marry into the Marquis's household. The Marquis's face showed signs of distress, but after all, the late lady's wish was for me to seek the hand of the second sister. Before he could finish, his legitimate sister walked over, shyly glancing at him. Her mourning attire was tightly cinched, accentuating her slender waist, eyes slightly upturned, full of charm, while I, kneeling far away, was stiff and numb all over. The Marquis immediately agreed. In my previous life, he had always detested people like me, who were as dull as wood, so he never set foot in my room on our wedding night, and a legitimate sister with such full charm has always been his favorite. As for the eldest sister's dying wish, let it go with the wind. 3 months after the eldest sister's death, the Marquis came to propose marrying the legitimate sister with great fanfare. On the day of the wedding, my legitimate younger sister looked at me with a face full of disdain and arrogance. In her heart, in this lifetime, she had finally reclaimed everything that originally belonged to her. As for her mindset, I was genuinely grateful. My marriage with Lu Tanshu was also put on the agenda. Compared to it, it is much more crude. Everyone in the GU household knows that the older sister is preparing to marry me off to the Marquis's residence. I don't care about the gossip among the servants in the mansion, but someone does. At noon, Lu Tanshu came to see me. Second Miss GU, he looked at me, his eyes deep and profound. Are you truly willing to give up the marriage to the Marquis's household and marry me, a penniless scholar? 15 years later, he would become the decisive and ruthless chief minister who set fire to the ancestral hall of the Marquis's household. But for now, he was still a young man. I feel inferior and doubtful. People come and go in the world, all for the sake of power and status. Yet I gave up the easily attainable power, status, and immense wealth, choosing him instead. This left Lu Tanshu utterly perplexed. Rest assured, Brother Lu, I smiled. To third sister, the Marquis's estate is like honey, but to me, it is arsenic. I spoke with such decisiveness that Lu Tanshu was left speechless. After a long while, he lowered his gaze and chuckled softly. GUWN, Lu Tanshu looked into my eyes and made a promise to me. In this life, I will never let you down. 2 years after Lu Tanshu and I got married, the imperial examination arrived. Lu Tanshu emerged as the top candidate in the palace examination, achieving the title of Zhuangyuan in the Golden Luan Hall. The emperor, seeing his youth and handsome appearance, thought of several princesses of similar age and conceived the idea of arranging a marriage for him. Lu Tanshu refused outright. Your Highness, I am already married. My wife is the daughter of GU, the Assistant Minister of Rights. She is gentle, virtuous, and we share a harmonious life. I have already sworn an oath that I will never betray her for the rest of my life. The emperor abandoned the idea of arranging a marriage but was still impressed by Lu Tanshu's devotion, and thus bestowed upon him abundant treasures of gold and silver. The news spread throughout the capital, and every young lady in the city was singing the praises of the top scholar's unwavering love. My younger sister by blood also heard these rumors at the banquet held by the Duke's estate. When my younger sister saw me, her tone was sharp and cutting. Second sister has been managing the household affairs for Scholar Lu these past 2 years, and she looks quite worn out. Fortunately, Scholar Lu is now thriving and successful. In the future, he will surely take on a few concubines to share second sister's burdens. Before I could speak, third princess, who was standing nearby, was displeased. Even Father Emperor has praised Lu Tanshu for his deep affection and loyalty, considering him a model husband. How is it that in your words, Lu Tanshu sounds like a heartless and faithless scoundrel? Madam Hu, if you have the leisure to meddle in others' affairs, it would be better to focus on yourself. Her stepsister's expression changed. She gritted her teeth, but said no more. Observing her expression, it seemed she knew something about the situation. That's right. Unlike my previous life where I was a mere shadow in the Marquis's residence, this time, my stepsister and the Marquis had once been newlyweds with tender affection. As the person who shares his pillow, my legitimate sister could not be entirely unaware of the Marquis's various actions, yet all of this was something she herself had sought. No matter how bitter or exhausting it might be, She had to endure it. After the banquet ended, I walked out of the Duke's residence hand in hand with several other ladies, only to see Lu Tanshu already waiting under the corridor amidst the teasing of the ladies. I blushed and was pulled into the carriage by Lu Tanshu. "I came home a bit early today, so I came to pick you up." Lu Tanshu handed me a food box, and upon opening it, I found my favorite chestnut cake. Watching me pick up a piece and put it in my mouth, Lu Tanshu smiled, but soon, a hint of worry appeared on his face. "Wanwan, I must leave the capital," Lu Tanshu said softly. "The emperor has appointed me to inspect the salt administration in Lianghuai. This journey is fraught with dangers, and you—" "I will go with you," I said, taking his hand. "Wherever you are, I will be there." 13 Lu Tanshu was appointed as the salt inspection censor and, along with the second prince, set out for Lianghuai to inspect the salt administration. The second prince, a few months younger than Lu Tanshu, kept calling me sister-in-law affectionately all the way. Upon arriving at the destination, the two of them quickly began investigating the salt tax. I stayed at the Lu residence, only receiving local officials' families who came to visit each day. Even though I kept to myself, I still heard about Lu Tanshu's activities. After the second prince and Lu Tanshu arrived in the Lianghuai region, they directly targeted the local influential families and succeeded in one fell swoop. Under such drastic measures, many officials were removed from their posts and imprisoned, but it was precisely because of this that the two became the targets of public criticism. Although Lu Tanshu kept reassuring me not to be afraid, I still couldn't help feeling a bit worried. In my previous life, although I resided in the Marquis's estate, I had also heard of the brutal struggle for the throne. Currently, the situation in the court is such that the eldest prince, being the crown prince and born to the empress, is supported by the nobility. However, his extravagant lifestyle is not well received by the scholarly officials. The second prince, on the other hand, is intelligent and deeply cares for the people. Despite his humble maternal lineage, he has developed his own power base. In my previous life, it was ultimately he who ascended to the throne. Seeing Lu Tan's close relationship with the second prince, it seems he had long since pledged allegiance to the second prince's faction. Thinking of this, I felt a little more at ease, until one day, Lu Tan did not return home all night. Early the next morning, the Lu residence was surrounded by soldiers. The messenger said that Lu Tanshu had colluded with foreign tribes, committed treason against the country, and had already fled. 14 Lu Tanshu committed treason. I would never believe it. Even if I were to die. The prefectural Yamen presented letters from Lu Tan that implicated him in treason, along with accompanying officials as witnesses, providing solid evidence. The Lu residence was surrounded for 3 days, and I was so anxious that I developed painful blisters in my mouth. The second prince secretly sent someone to reassure me, telling me not to worry. He said that he had already dispatched people to search for Lu Tan's whereabouts, and if there was any news, he would inform me immediately. Seeing this, I felt a bit relieved, but with the lessons from my previous life, I couldn't return to being the submissive GUWN. After 5 years of marriage, Lu Tanshu had protected me for 5 years, although at first, I married him out of both exploitation and reliance, but now, I also want to protect him. I carefully recalled the news about Lu Tanshu from my previous life, only to find that my mind held only scattered clues. In my memory, my legitimate sister never left the capital. She once complained to me about her husband being transferred to a remote post, and she despised that place for being a backwater, lacking the splendor and prosperity of the capital. Unwilling to accompany him, Lu Tanshu had always been an honest and incorruptible official. Even in his position as Salt Transport Commissioner, he could not possibly satisfy his younger sister's insatiable desire for material possessions. The most intense argument occurred during a period when she frequently visited the Marquis's residence. His younger sister had long wanted to divorce Lu Tanshu. As a noble and a supporter of the crown prince, those intricate relationships crisscrossed in my mind, gradually weaving together into a seamless whole. I stayed up all night. Early the next morning, dressed in a deep red gown, I opened the gate of the Lu mansion. The soldiers guarding the entrance immediately raised their spears at the sight of me. The prefect has ordered that no one from the Lu mansion, all 1,000 of its members, is allowed to enter or leave. The silver blade glinted with a chilling light, filling my heart with dread, yet, judging by my expression alone, I remained completely unmoved. According to the laws of our dynasty, anyone who endures 10 strokes of the cane is entitled to voice their grievances in court. I, the wife of Lu Tanshu, am willing to endure 10 strokes of the cane to plead for justice on behalf of my husband. 15 Once, twice I bit down on my sleeve, trying my best not to make a sound. The wooden rod used for punishment was thick and heavy. After 10 strokes, I was in such pain that my face turned pale, and sweat poured down my forehead like rain. The punishment was carried out in public. Before long, the courtyard was filled with onlookers. Who stands below? The prefect rapped the gavel and inquired from his seat. It was he who ordered the siege of the Lu residence and the manhunt for Lu Tanshu. He is a man of the crown prince. I forced myself to stand up, suppressing the pain. I am the wife of Lu Tanshu. What brings you here? I have come to clear my husband's name. I raised my head. My husband never betrayed the country. Absurd. The prefect rebuked. Lu Tanshu colluded with foreign tribes. The evidence is conclusive. Then may I ask the prefect, what did my husband seek by colluding with foreign tribes? Naturally, it's for wealth. Where is the wealth? I retorted. No one answered. With the lessons learned from the previous life's experience with the Marquis's estate, I managed the household with extreme strictness. During the confiscation, the soldiers found not a single trace of wealth in the Lu household, and Lu Tanshu had long praised my management methods, which he also implemented in the Surveillance Institute. Although Lu Tanshu had disappeared, no one dared to accuse the second prince of treason. Fortunately, the second prince acted swiftly, and nothing was found in the Surveillance Institute. Why did Lu Tanshu betray the country? This matter remains a mystery to this day. Even if no wealth was found, there are letters of correspondence between Lu Tanshu and foreign tribes. How do you intend to explain that? The prefect took out a letter and handed it to me. After reading it, I found that it was indeed written by Lu Tanshu, but so what? I had the Yamen runners bring me paper and writing brushes, then copied the entire letter by hand. The scribe of the prefecture carefully examined the 2 letters for a long time. Indeed, it is impossible to distinguish them by handwriting. Your Excellency, handwriting can be forged. I raised my head and said to the prefect, I, a mere woman, only have a superficial knowledge of poetry and books, yet I can imitate my husband's handwriting perfectly, and with our great nation being full of talented people, is it just to slander a salt commissioner, who has always been honest, with a letter of unknown origin, accusing him of treason? This is simply too absurd. As I spoke, the people below the hall began to murmur among themselves. Yes, Lu Tanshu has been in Fengtian for 2 years, punishing countless corrupt officials and winning the hearts of the people. Deep down, the common folk did not believe that Lu Tanshu would betray the country. The uproar of the crowd forced the prefect to once again slam the gavel on the bench. Bring the witness forward. A man in prison garb was escorted into the main hall. The guilty official was Lu Tanshu's deputy. He said, Lu Tanshu colluded with Japanese pirates, engaging in smuggling for profit. I witnessed it with my own eyes, and also participated in some under his coercion. If you witnessed it with your own eyes, then may I ask when and where you saw it? I retorted. The man mentioned the date and location, and I couldn't help but laugh upon hearing them. Although Lu Tanshu was not in the city those few days, he certainly wouldn't be at the place the man mentioned. After our marriage, whenever Lu Tanshu was away from home, he would write to me every single day. Without fail, the envelope bore the postmark, indicating when and where the letter was sent. I carefully kept all these letters, not missing a single one. I presented these letters to everyone present. The officials in the courtroom remained composed, but among the commoners below, someone immediately cried out in alarm, Lord Lu is innocent. By now, all the testimonies and evidence have been overturned, and the motive is also questionable. At this moment, I saw the second prince leading a middle-aged man into the government office. Upon seeing him, the prefect hurriedly vacated the main seat. The middle-aged man waved his hand, signaling him to sit back down. Regarding the case of Lu Tanshu's treason, I find the evidence insufficient and further investigation is needed, he said with just this one sentence. The prefect broke out in a cold sweat. 16 The soldiers surrounding the Lu residence withdrew, yet I still dared not relax, keeping the doors tightly shut while I recuperated from my injuries. When I returned home from the government office that day, I realized my legs were bruised, swollen, and completely numb. The doctor said that if I hadn't been treated in time, my legs would have been permanently disabled. One afternoon, I woke from a nap to see a slender figure sitting by the bed, gazing intently at me. It was Lu Tanshu. After many days apart, he had tanned and lost weight. Lu Tanshu gently touched my legs. Does it hurt? He asked softly. I shook my head. It doesn't hurt, compared to the pain of having swords pierce my heart in my previous life. What is this? Lu Tanshu looked at me for a long time, then suddenly leaned down and hugged me tightly. His strength was immense, as if he wanted to merge me into his very flesh and blood. Wanwan, he said, the Marquis's estate sent someone to kill me. 17. Lu Tanshu told me a lot back then. The Marquis and his stepmother committed adultery and murdered the old Marquis. The two thought they had done it discreetly, but they were still discovered by Uncle Lu. Uncle Lu secretly collected evidence, but unexpectedly, he was killed by the two instead. Not content with killing Uncle Lu, the two also sent assassins to the countryside to murder Aunt Lu, who was pregnant at the time. Lu Tanshu, being young and mischievous, stayed out all night playing. Little did he know that this saved him from a fatal encounter. From that day on, Lu Tanshu devoted himself to his studies. After arriving in the capital, he began secretly searching for the murderers of his parents. He also followed the trail to uncover the Marquis's hidden secrets. Whether in this life or the previous one, he and the Marquis were locked in a mortal feud. His hatred for the Marquis is as deep as mine. 18 As soon as Lu Tan returned, he immediately cleared himself of the suspicion of treason. In the following months, he became like a god of slaughter in the official circles of the two Huai regions, striking down gods and Buddhas alike. Later, the second prince and Lu Tanshu were commended for their meritorious service in investigating the salt affairs. Upon returning to the capital to report their duties, they were praised and rewarded by the emperor. Lu Tanshu was promoted, and my status rose accordingly. At the first banquet after returning to the capital, the third princess approached me to chat. The news has spread all over the capital. They say that the wife of Minister Lu went to the prefecture office to plead for her husband's innocence, leaving the prefect speechless. My second brother also told me that if it weren't for your actions clearing Lu Tanshu's name directly, their future plans wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Madam Gu, you truly are a heroine among women. The third princess praised me endlessly. A heroine among women. I never would have imagined that a term like heroine among women would one day be used to describe me. In my past life, I was like withered weeds, sinking and perishing in the mire of the Marquis's estate. But in this life, I am like a pine tree in the morning sun, rooted in fertile soil. Growing freely. A woman's growth requires fertile ground. Lu Tanshu is to me the most fertile soil imaginable. Second sister is truly in high spirits now. A mocking voice came through. I turned my head to look and found it was actually my long unseen legitimate sister. She still adorned herself with gold and silver, dressed in luxurious garments, yet, for some unknown reason, the exposed skin was painted stark white with lead powder. Upon closer inspection, the skin beneath the lead powder was covered in pimples. My tone was hesitant. Shouldn't you consult a renowned physician? Your skin looks like it's suffering from some serious illness. Sister, after a long time, I once again heard the voice of my legitimate sister. Second sister, don't be so smug, she said through gritted teeth. Everything you have now, you've taken from me. 19 Did I take it from her? Hearing my legitimate younger sister say this, I found it somewhat amusing. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have even felt a bit of pity for her in my heart, but after experiencing my previous life, I only felt that she had brought it upon herself. After the banquet, I secretly inquired and found that rumors about the Marquis's estate were everywhere in recent years. My legitimate sister has stirred up quite a storm in the Marquis's household, from the Marquis's affair with the stepmother to the heir's debauchery and the household's disregard for human life. Every single incident has been exposed by my legitimate sister, making them known to everyone. She has always been arrogant and impulsive, never considering the consequences or how these actions might affect her. I listened to these rumors and realized that this time, the fall of the Marquis's estate might come much earlier than I had imagined. In fact, it might not even require my direct involvement or Lu Tanshu's 20 this time. Lu Tanshu entered the cabinet several years earlier than in the previous life. At the same time, I also became pregnant. Lu Tanshu was so excited that he spent all day thinking about names for the child, wasting quite a few sheets of paper in the process. I am also very happy, gently stroking my slightly swollen belly. I quietly savored the joy of becoming a mother for the first time in both my previous life and this one. This is my first child. No matter what, I must protect her. The political situation in the court is unpredictable in this lifetime. With Lu Tan's early rise to power, the struggle for the throne has also arrived earlier. One late night, I woke up from a dream, only to find Lu Tan changing clothes. What happened? I asked hurriedly. Lu Tanshu's expression froze. There's trouble in the Eastern Palace. The second prince sent someone to inform me, and I must go there immediately. Tonight, something major is likely to happen in the capital. You must have someone guard the door and tell the servants in the mansion not to wander around. Lu Tanshu held my hand, giving me many instructions, yet he couldn't shake off his worry. Go with peace of mind, I comforted him with a smile. Don't worry about me, having lived 2 lives. I am no longer the fragile and helpless GUWN of my previous incarnation. Yet, for some reason, there are always those who think I am. Less than an hour after Lu Tanshu left, the city was engulfed in flames, with soldiers shouting and killing everywhere. In the midst of this chaos, a group of bandits arrived at the Lu residence, preparing to break in and kill, but I had already set up an inescapable net in front of the mansion. Those 20 or so thieves gained nothing and were instead all captured by the Lu family's servants. Who sent you here? I sat in the main hall, looking down from above as I interrogated them. The thieves remained silent. I signaled the household servants to apply a bit of punishment, and soon, the leader of the thieves confessed. It's Madame Yang Hu, 21. Tonight it's Madame Yang Hu. Tomorrow, she'll be a prisoner. The crown prince rose in rebellion, and the Marquis's estate was implicated. If the rebellion succeeded, they would have the merit of supporting the new ruler. If the rebellion failed, they would be labeled as traitors and rebels. The crown prince's rebellion failed, and the emperor was furious, ordering a strict investigation. As a result, hundreds of people in the Marquis's household were executed or exiled. The old case of the Marquis and his stepmother conspiring to murder the old Marquis was reopened. The skeletons found in the dry well at the back of the Marquis's residence were unearthed, and all those involved were sentenced to death by dismemberment. My half-sister, who knew about the crime but did not report it and even ordered the murder, was also sentenced to beheading. Before her execution, I went to the dungeon to see her off for the last time. In the dark and damp dungeon, my younger sister was already showing signs of madness. I am the lady of the Lu family. I am the true lady of the Lu family. GUWN, you've taken everything from me. You should be the one to come to this Marquis's mansion and endure all of this. You should be the one to die. I stood outside the door, silently observing my sister's erratic behavior. Even if I stand right in front of her, she wouldn't recognize me anymore. The experiences and contrasts of 2 lifetimes, this one and the previous one, had severely traumatized her mind. She doesn't understand how she ended up in this situation today. My sister refuses to face her own mistakes, yet she blames it all on me. I sighed and turned to leave. The execution is tomorrow. What more can I say to a dying madman? 22. The Marquis's mansion was found guilty, and the 2 daughters of the legitimate wife were both the rightful wives of the Marquis's mansion. The father was terrified and quickly wrote a letter of divorce, sending his legitimate wife to the countryside estate overnight. In the face of life and death, he could no longer care about the family's honor, rise and fall, or reputation. With the fall of the Marquis's estate, the eldest sister's grave was overgrown with weeds. I came to her tombstone, told her about the fate of the Marquis's estate and the heir, then turned and left without a trace of attachment. On the other side, Lu Tan's success in quelling the rebellion, coupled with the imminent retirement of the current Prime Minister Xie, seems to indicate that his promotion is just around the corner. Many families have entertained ill-conceived notions, attempting to gift concubines to Lu Tan, only to be firmly rebuffed. Her looks do not match my wife's, her talent does not match my wife's, her courage does not match my wife's. Your Excellency, please do not jest carelessly. Do you think my standards are so low, whose daughter wasn't raised with tender care, who would willingly be compared like this by him? As time passed, no one was willing to invite such unpleasantness upon themselves. One late night, I woke from a dream to find Lu Tanshu holding me, his eyes brimming with tears. I had a dream where you didn't marry me, but instead married into the Marquis's household. In my dream, you died early in the Marquis's mansion, and I desperately tried to avenge you. His voice choked with grievance, tears fell from the corner of my eye, yet the corners of my mouth unconsciously lifted. How childish, to be frightened like this by a dream. I patted his head. Don't think about it anymore, go to sleep. Yes, those old memories I couldn't forget have long since vanished into thin air over time. It was just like a dream. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My husband had just been reborn when he declared he would divorce me to marry his cousin instead. My mother-in-law was so terrified she slapped him. Your cousin is already a noble lady in the palace. Are you trying to get us all killed with such treasonous words? My husband was stunned. He didn't know that I had been reborn 4 years earlier than him, and I had already sent his cousin into the palace. In our previous life, my husband favored his cousin and went to great lengths to harm me. In this life, let's see if he has what it takes to harm the emperor instead. Oh, and when he discovers that I had already castrated him long ago, it will be an even bigger surprise. I was attending to my mother-in-law's health and having breakfast in her room. After the meal, she urged me to go back and rest. If I went back now, wouldn't I be the first to discover my husband's corpse? I took my mother-in-law's hand and said, "No rush, your feet get cold at night. Mother, let me sew you a few pairs of sleeping socks today." My mother-in-law praised my filial piety repeatedly and lamented my husband's uselessness. I smiled. When I heard hurried footsteps outside the courtyard, my smile grew even more genuine. Unexpectedly, the one who came bouncing in through the door, alive and kicking, was my husband, Luo Yuzhang. Startled, I clenched my hand, carefully recalling if there had been any mistake with the poison, but Luo Yuzhang merely glanced at me dismissively before running to his mother and saying, "Mother, I finally found out, it was Wanwan who truly saved my life back then. Chu Ying stole the credit from Wanwan, drove a wedge between us, and schemed her way into this marriage. Now I'm going to divorce Chu Ying and marry cousin Wanwan." I paused. I saw my mother-in-law's face turn pale with horror as she abruptly stood up and slapped Luo Yuzhang. "Mother, you can be angry all you want, but my resolve won't change. If I don't marry Wanwan, I'll never be happy for the rest of my life," Luo Yuzhang said stubbornly, covering his cheek. My mother-in-law pointed at Luo Yuzhang, trembling with rage. All the servants in the room kept their heads down, not daring to make a sound. I quickly went over to pat my mother-in-law's back and help her calm down. Luo Yuzhang remained oblivious. "Chu Ying, if you hadn't come between me and Wanwan, I would never have looked at you twice. Trying to win over my mother now is useless. If you know what's good for you, go apologize to Wanwan." My mother-in-law finally caught her breath. "Shut up." She glared at Luo Yuzhang, stamping her feet in anxiety. "You unfilial son, Su Wn has already entered the palace and become a noble lady. Are you trying to get our entire family killed now?" "What?" Luo Yuzhang's face was full of disbelief. "But it's only the 7th year of Guangxi. Wanwan should still be waiting for me because I didn't marry her," Luo Yuzhang asked. Hearing this, I was certain Luo Yuzhang had been reborn just like me. The only difference was that he had been reborn 4 years later than me. I picked up a vase and smashed it over Luo Yuzhang's head with a crash. Luo Yuzhang fainted. I leaned on my mother-in-law's lap, trembling and sobbing. She patted my hand and said to everyone in the room, "The young master has temporarily lost his mind. No one is to speak of what just happened." The servants unanimously replied, Yes, after all, publicly declaring his intention to marry an imperial consort and vowing lifelong regret if he couldn't if this got out. The Luo family wouldn't have enough heads to spare. My mother-in-law then looked at Luo Yuzhang on the floor, her face showing heartache. I whispered, "Your daughter-in-law acted too hastily just now. What if something happens to my husband?" My mother-in-law sighed. Though she pitied Luo Yuzhang, she could only say, "This wretched boy, it's thanks to you that you knocked him out in time." She glanced around the room and sighed again, saying, "You go personally to tell the gatekeeper to fetch a physician. Don't bring any servants from this room with you." I quickly nodded, understanding that my mother-in-law needed to discipline the servants further. After leaving my mother-in-law's courtyard, I slowed my pace. I had been careful when hitting Luo Yuzhang. I knew it wouldn't kill him, but I could take my time, letting him suffer a bit longer, bleed a little more, and grow weaker. The more he suffered, the happier I would be. Just as I was thinking this, I saw Luo Yuzhang's personal servant rushing over. I asked what was wrong. The servant suddenly found his backbone. "Young master," he woke up this morning, suddenly called out the name of that noble person, then asked me what year and month it is, and suddenly ran off. I chased after him with all my might but couldn't catch up. My face darkened. This is no small matter. Who in the husband's courtyard witnessed this? I brought the servant back to the courtyard, gathered all the servants who had heard Luo Yuzhang's nonsense, and took the opportunity to clean up the traces of my attempt to murder him. When I returned to my mother-in-law's courtyard with the physician, Luo Yuzhang happened to be slowly regaining consciousness. He murmured a name like in a dream, Wanwan. My mother-in-law abruptly stood up and slapped him again. I rushed over and grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "Mother, husband is already in pain from his injuries. Please let the physician examine him first." On the surface, I appeared to love Luo Yuzhang deeply, but in my eyes, there was nothing but sarcasm. Having been reborn for several years, the gratitude and grudges, love and hate between Luo Yuzhang and me should have ended with his death last night. Unexpectedly, though he died in this lifetime, his self from the previous life was reborn into this one. Just as well, in the previous life, he harmed my entire family. Letting him die easily wouldn't be satisfying enough. Luo Yuzhang and I were betrothed since childhood. My family sought the protection from his ancestors' merit of following the emperor. While his family coveted my family's immense wealth, I originally didn't mind that he had a sweetheart cousin. If Luo Yuzhang wanted to keep beauties, he could afford to keep as many as he wanted. As long as he properly maintained the family's reputation, gave me the dignity due to the legal wife, and allowed my family to rely on the Luo family's status for support in business. After all, among the noble young masters in the capital, one as foolish and easy to use as him would be hard to find even with a lantern. However, Luo Yuzhang was deeply in love with Su Wen and wanted her to be his legal wife, yet couldn't bear to part with my family's wealth. Before the marriage, he and Su Wen devised a vicious plan to have bandits kidnap me and ruin my reputation. Then, when I felt too ashamed to be the legal wife, he would magnanimously allow me to become his concubine with a massive dowry. I turned their scheme to my advantage. Having found out that Su Wen claimed to be Luo Yuzhang's childhood savior, I arranged during the bandit chaos for Su Wen to abandon Luo Yuzhang and flee alone. Then I presented forged evidence to make Luo Yuzhang believe that I was actually his childhood savior. Luo Yuzhang became estranged from Su Wen, sent her to a nunnery, and joyfully married me. After marriage, I didn't have much affection for Luo Yuzhang. The fact that he could agree to such a vicious plan to ruin a woman's reputation, and then discard Su Wen, whom he had once deeply loved, like a pair of worn-out shoes, showed that he was heartless, unrighteous, and without virtue. So I had always been on guard against him. But while it's easy to dodge an open spear, it's hard to guard against a fool. 3 years after marriage, Luo Yuzhang rekindled his old flame with Su Wen. Seeing that Su Wen had suffered through 3 years of ascetic practice, Luo Yuzhang decided to play the hero, saving a beauty and punish evil to promote good. His plan was to kill me, seize my dowry, take over my shops and manors, remarry Su Wen as his legal wife, and give her unborn child a legitimate and noble status. By this time, I had already managed the Luo household into an iron fortress. The repeated schemes and troubles from Luo Yuzhang, Su Wan, and Luo Yuzhang's mother were all thwarted by me. Unable to do anything about me, Luo Yuzhang suddenly went mad, publicly shouting about wanting to rebel and uttering many seditious words. He even claimed that my Chu family had been funding him and was his accomplice in rebellion. He intended to rely on the punishment of exterminating 9 clans to perish together with my Chu family. My Chu family suffered greatly, offering half of our wealth to beg the emperor to thoroughly investigate the truth and preserve the lives of our entire family. However, Luo Yuzhang was determined to have me dead, especially since he had already contracted a venereal disease and didn't have long to live anyway. Before shouting about rebellion, he deliberately ate and lived with disaster victims infected with plague for several days. When our entire family was imprisoned together with Luo Yuzhang, we were infected by him with the plague. Later, my entire Chu family died from the illness, and after death, our bodies were all burned to ashes, leaving no remains. Carrying immense hatred, I was reborn on my wedding night with Luo Yuzhang. After testing, I found that only I had been reborn, so I began making plans from that very moment, for whole years. Just as I had completed all my revenge and poisoned Luo Yuzhang, he actually reincarnated from his previous life. Perfect, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth this time. I'll make sure he dies with clarity. I looked at Luo Yuzhang, who was still dazed. The physician bandaged the wound on Luo Yuzhang's head and whispered to my mother-in-law, "It's just a superficial injury, rest is all he needs." However, young Master Luo must not take those potent aphrodisiacs anymore. He also needs to relax his mind. His pulse is becoming faint. My mother-in-law's face darkened. I immediately turned away, wiping my tears and covering my upturned lips with a handkerchief. The physician couldn't detect that Luo Yuzhang had been fatally poisoned. A year and a half after his reincarnation, the concubines I had taken in for Luo Yuzhang gave birth one after another, rendering him useless. So, I made sure Luo Yuzhang became impotent. At the time, Luo Yuzhang was frantic, seeking stimulation with one beauty after another and consulting numerous physicians. At first, he discreetly took potent aphrodisiacs to protect his reputation, but later, in his desperation, he sought out all sorts of folk remedies and even believed in alchemists' elixirs. After consuming too many strange remedies and pills, his body was already ruined, and his pulse was so erratic that even the imperial physician dared not claim he could be cured. If Luo Yuzhang cared about himself at all, he should have carefully considered what the physician meant. Unfortunately, Luo Yuzhang was extremely sensitive about anyone pointing out his impotence. The moment it was mentioned, he would fly into a rage, even beating a concubine to death in a fit of madness. So, the physician only dared to hint subtly, and even my mother-in-law avoided provoking Luo Yuzhang on this matter, only privately asking me to keep him in check. Luo Yuzhang impatiently waved his hand to shoo the physician away. Get out, mother. I have something to ask you." Before the physician had even closed the door, Luo Yuzhang asked, "Mother, cousin Wanwan." I covered my mouth. "Husband, be careful with your words. You must not address a noble lady by her personal name." Luo Yuzhang glared at me fiercely. "Chu Ying, you venomous snake, how dare you?" Slap. My mother-in-law struck Luo Yuzhang again. Luo Yuzhang widened his eyes and asked, "Mother, why do you keep hitting me today?" I quickly walked to the door to check and shook my head at my mother-in-law, indicating no one was there. Only then did my mother-in-law scold him. "Luo Yuzhang, I've tolerated you disgracing the Luo family all this time, but Su Wan has already entered the palace. No matter how reluctant you are, you must let go. Do you want me to lose my head along with you?" Luo Yuzhang abruptly sat up, entered the palace. Wanwan, she was clearly waiting for me. She said she would wait for me forever. I never had the chance to treat her well. How could this happen? "Mother, tell me why." I found it amusing. When Luo Yuzhang first became impotent, a servant I had planted suggested a solution. He should look at various beauties, as it might stir a reaction. Luo Yuzhang took the advice and frequented brothels. From time to time, I gave him antidotes, making him fluctuate between recovery and relapse. He thought admiring beauties was effective and grew even closer to the courtesans. During this time, I arranged for Su Wen to return to the Luo residence, allowing her to witness how many beauties Luo Yuzhang had sweet-talked in the same way. Heartbroken and learning of Luo Yuzhang's impotence, Su Wen weighed her options and, realizing she had caught the emperor's eye, decisively entered the palace. Someone who couldn't even handle household conflicts was now entering the treacherous depths of the palace. Alas, once you step into the palace, it's like plunging into an abyss. My mother-in-law pinched me, signaling me to explain. I pretended to say, "Husband, cousin Wanwan." Luo Yuzhang glared at me. "It must be you, you venomous woman. Even before our marriage, you were scheming against us." This time, Wanwan didn't wait for me. "It must be your doing too. Chu Ying, have you also reincarnated? What have you done since your reincarnation?" Luo Yuzhang struggled to get out of bed. "Mother, I've reincarnated. Listen to me, this venomous woman, Chu Ying, will bring ruin to our entire family." I clung to my mother-in-law, shrinking back fearfully. "Reincarnation? Isn't that from the storybook written by the Taoist who swindled 3,000 taels of gold from you?" "Mother-in-law, has my husband gone mad from trying to cure his impotence?" Luo Yuzhang continued to warn my mother-in-law to be wary of me. My mother-in-law trembled all over, stumbling as she rushed outside. "Aang, you can't speak so bluntly. Someone, come quickly." Before his rebirth, Luo Yuzhang would fly into a violent rage and start hitting people whenever someone accused him of impotence. I followed closely behind my mother-in-law, and as we reached the door, while she was instructing the servants, I turned back and said to Luo Yuzhang, "No matter what Su Wen does, Luo Yuzhang, you've become a eunuch in this lifetime. Enjoy the surprise I've prepared for you." The servant quickly locked the door and stood guard outside with a large club. Watching my mother-in-law's ashen face, I muttered to myself, "Why has my husband lost his mind again today?" Inside the room, Luo Yuzhang let out a shrill scream. "Why, I'm actually incapable. Impossible, impossible." His voice was hysterical. My mother-in-law trembled. "Aang, I thought you were steady, but I never expected your words to reopen Yuzhang's wounds, forcing me to flee as well. And just now, Yuzhang said you." At that moment, the crisp sound of a shattering vase came from inside the room. My mother-in-law's face changed. "My Tzizhou green-glazed vase." I smiled mockingly. Now that my husband was in my mother-in-law's room, everything he smashed belonged to her. Over the years, I had deliberately indulged my mother-in-law with fine food and comforts. Although the Luo family had status in the past, they lacked wealth, and their life was only superficially glamorous. It was only after I arrived that my mother-in-law truly began to enjoy a life of luxury. As the saying goes, it's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. The sound of smashing continued from inside the room, and my mother-in-law's face twisted in distress as she stamped her feet repeatedly. I said softly, "Mother, my husband's temper is worse than ever this time. If he only smashes a few things, even if he destroys the entire room or the entire mansion, at worst, our family can live in poverty with him. But if he utters those treasonous words again, it could cost all of us our heads." When I mentioned living in poverty, my mother-in-law sighed repeatedly. She gritted her teeth and said, "Yuzhang has lost his mind. We must lock him up to prevent him from saying anything that might be overheard." "Yinger, you must not be soft-hearted." Two highly skilled servants rushed in, holding cotton quilts. Luo Yuzhang shouted, "How dare you? Let me go, soon." His voice faded away. While my mother-in-law was heartbrokenly surveying the mess, I took a handkerchief, wiped it in the spot where her beloved cat usually relieved itself, and then stuffed it into Luo Yuzhang's mouth. Luo Yuzhang retched until tears streamed down his face. Glaring at me fiercely, his hands and feet were bound by the servants, and now, like a fish on a chopping board, he could only writhe helplessly, unable to cause any trouble. I shook my head and said, "Husband, if only I hadn't gone to buy that so-called colored glaze, that Taoist priest wouldn't have had the chance to deceive you." My mother-in-law coughed lightly. A few days earlier, I had heard that a shipment of precious goods would arrive at Dengju port. So I decided to go and buy a birthday gift for my mother-in-law. Before leaving, I asked her to look after Luo Yuzhang. She agreed without hesitation. Then, as soon as I left the capital, her favorite opera troupe announced a new performance that she simply couldn't resist. While she was busy enjoying the opera, a fake Taoist priest seized the opportunity to deceive Luo Yuzhang. My plan was to ensure that if Luo Yuzhang died from the fake Taoist's elixir, it would never be traced back to me, my mother-in-law. Afraid that the Luo family would blame her for neglecting Luo Yuzhang due to her indulgence in pleasure, would never dare to report the fake Taoist to the authorities. Those with guilty consciences naturally stand together in covering up the truth. Digging too deep would only expose their own misdeeds. So, merely dazzling my mother-in-law with wealth was not enough. I needed to make her see herself as an accomplice in Luo Yuzhang's death. My mother-in-law sighed and said, "Yuzhang, the entire Luo family, your dozen or so children, all still need to live. Don't blame your mother for being cruel. Once you've calmed down, I'll release you." Luo Yuzhang's eyes widened again. In his previous life, he had only 2 children with me. Later, Su Wn became pregnant with one, but it was never born. My mother-in-law turned away and said, "Someone, take the young master back to his room and lock him up. Just locking him in the room isn't enough. Luo Yuzhang will only be quiet when he's dead." I gave Luo Yuzhang a provocative smile. Sobbing, I said to my mother-in-law, "Mother, Wn Yang birthday is in a few days. I think that's why husband suddenly went mad. I want to use the merits I've accumulated these years as a royal merchant to beg Her Majesty the Empress for a favor, to allow Wn Yang to leave the palace once." No, my mother-in-law was horrified. Absolutely not. Since my rebirth, I've always maintained excellent superficial decorum. Everyone inside and outside the mansion knows that even though Luo Yuzhang is impotent, I love him as if under a spell. Now, my mother-in-law fears that I might truly do anything to create an opportunity for Luo Yuzhang and Su Wn to meet again. Therefore, she specifically ordered that I not be allowed to visit Luo Yuzhang, even going so far as to move him from his comfortable courtyard to confinement in the side room of the ancestral hall. At night, I brought a pot of medicine to the ancestral hall. The moment Luo Yuzhang saw me, he began writhing. In my previous life, to prevent the spread of plague, all who died of illness had to be cremated. At that time, my mother wasn't completely dead yet. When the fire burned her, she sat up in pain, struggling more helplessly and painfully than Luo Yuzhang now, so I directly poured the entire pot of medicine into Luo Yuzhang's mouth. Blood blisters immediately formed in his throat. Luo Yuzhang kept retching, the veins on his neck bulging, but he could only make hoarse sounds. He was mute now. I wouldn't give him another chance to speak. I was afraid he might go mad again. People like him, when driven to desperation, become reckless and drag everyone to hell, so only by making him die directly would I be safest. Even if he didn't die immediately, I had to make it so he couldn't speak, couldn't move his limbs, and couldn't see. Only his ears remained, to hear everything I had done to him over the years. He could only endure everything, without being able to vent or resist. I deliberately acted deeply in love to make my mother-in-law lock Luo Yuzhang in the ancestral hall. The side courtyard of the ancestral hall is usually deserted, and coincidentally a nest of poisonous ants had made their home there. I had fed Luo Yuzhang ant poison mixed with honey, and now ants were already crawling on him. Watching the ants, I said, "Luo Yuzhang, I deliberately sent Su Wn into the palace. She truly loved you once. Now she's entered the palace alone, becoming the lowest-ranking noble lady, no family background, no favor. Everyone can bully her. Last winter, when water froze instantly, she was punished to wash clothes in cold water. How miserable." Luo Yuzhang clenched his hands, raising them as if to hit me. I didn't hold back either, grabbing a wooden stick and striking hard. Luo Yuzhang fell to the ground in pain. I smiled, "Kneel and kowtow in repentance, and I'll tell you how Su Wn entered the palace. The truth must be heart-wrenching." But Luo Yuzhang, suddenly reborn, knew nothing. Besides listening painfully to these stinging words, he had no choice. He knelt unsteadily. I took 2 spirit tablets from my sleeve. A flicker of confusion passed over Luo Yu Zhang's face on the spirit tablets were the names of my 2 children from my previous life, Ichuan and Shiji. After rebirth, I could save everyone who died unjustly because of Luo Yuzhang except my 2 children. Luo Yuzhang kowtowed repeatedly. In my heart, I said, Ichuan, Shiji, I will make your father repay what he owes you with his life. Go peacefully to your next rebirth. Perhaps Luo Yuzhang also felt some guilt, as he remained kneeling for a very long time. After a long while, I untied his wrists. He picked up pen and paper and wrote, Yinga, I was wrong before, but you shouldn't have left Wanwan no way out. I had no interest in listening to his nonsense. I snatched away his pen. Luo Yuzhang, I drugged you to make you impotent. You're no longer a man. Su Wan has also entered the palace, and there's no possibility for you two in this lifetime. She was indeed waiting for you in the nunnery, but when I arranged for you to have some courtesan concubines, you had no time for her, so in her sadness, she voluntarily entered the palace. Oh, she also knows you're impotent. Not only have you lost her love, but you've also completely lost all affection and face in front of her. Luo Yuzhang couldn't believe it as he checked his lower body without a pen. He dipped his finger in the blood bubbles from his throat, writing on the paper, sometimes calling me a venomous woman, sometimes writing Wanwan, and other times asking about his congenital impotence. There were too many bad news, he couldn't keep up, and there wasn't even enough blood to write with. I smiled. Before you were reborn, you had already tried many methods to cure your impotence. Now the entire capital knows you're incapable. Luo Yuzhang grew increasingly agitated. I had to use a stick to help him calm down. When he first reborn, even if he heard about his impotence, he still believed it could be cured. But now, I shattered all his hopes, making him truly experience a thunderstruck feeling. He wept bitterly, using his fingers to write curses against me. I continued, your reputation is also in ruins. Right after marriage, you forcibly took dozens of concubines, visited brothels every day, so absurd that even the historians wrote in the history books to condemn you. Later, you became congenitally impotent, eating toads and golden juice in an attempt to cure it, turning into a laughingstock. Yes, the historians recorded all of this in detail. The historians were upright and difficult to bribe, so I helped the daughter of one historian, who had married a heartless man, start a new life. Yet, she remained infatuated with Luo Yuzhang, unable to let go. This infuriated the historian, who then wrote scathing satires about Luo Yuzhang in the historical records. I also secretly hired people to write many storybooks, fabricating Luo Yuzhang's methods of treatment. In any case, whether before or after his death, countless people would know that he ate excrement. I watched as Luo Yuzhang, pale-faced, clawed at his throat, and sneered. Luo Yuzhang, now you've truly made a name for yourself in the history books. Luo Yuzhang once had the potential for a successful career. In my previous life, even before marriage, I had planned to manage the household diligently, befriend noble women, and help Luo Yuzhang rise swiftly in his career. After all, the higher he climbed, the greater the protection for my Chu family. Even later, when he tried to ruin my reputation, I still acted for the greater good after marriage, allowing him to enjoy a period of success and satisfaction. In this life, I remembered the humble scholars who had passed the imperial exams in my previous life and made a point to befriend them in advance, relying on my foreknowledge. I also gained the favor of the Empress. With more and more support, I no longer had to rely solely on clinging to Luo Yuzhang. Instead, he became the only one with any value left to be used by me. In the past, people would say my Chu family had married above our station, but over the past 4 years, the situation reversed, and everyone now says Luo Yuzhang has been a burden to me. I looked at the disheveled Luo Yuzhang with pity. When you were reborn today, you must have thought that being reborn would surely allow you to trample me underfoot. How foolish. I was reborn a full 4 years earlier than you. I've exacted all my revenge on you, the people you love, your reputation, your body. All destroyed by me. In fact, if I hadn't poisoned you to death, the you from the previous life wouldn't have been reborn here. Luo Yuzhang trembled as he pointed at me, his expression filled with murderous intent. I sneered, this is just as well. Let you witness my revenge with your own eyes." Luo Yuzhang tried to say something, but several ants had already crawled to his lips along the honeyed soup. His eyes widened in terror. In my previous life, Luo Yuzhang deliberately infected us with a plague that caused rashes all over the body. Unbearable itching that couldn't be relieved even by scratching until blood was drawn. Patients would unconsciously scratch their entire bodies raw, and wherever the rash pus touched, more rashes would erupt, making it even harder to treat than smallpox. So, after being reborn, I searched through many books before finding these venomous ants that, when they bite, cause unbearable itching and festering sores. I said with satisfaction, "These sores must feel familiar. After you die, physicians will say you contracted the plague, your body will be burned to ashes, leaving no trace. In the future, your dozen sons won't even have a grave to visit. You've brought such shame to the Luo family that no one will even bother to set up a cenotaph to honor you." Luo Yuzhang let out guttural cries, struggling in an unsightly manner. "Can't take it anymore. Both body and name shall perish. This is the ending you chose with your own hands in your past life." I leaned down, tightening my grip on the club in my hand, learning from past mistakes. "I won't let you live much longer." I smashed Luo Yuzhang's wrist. He would never be able to write again. To be honest, it's a bit of a pity. I really wanted to see what he would say once he found out everything I had done, but if he could still send messages outside, I would be living in constant fear, unable to sleep peacefully night after night. I splashed some honey water on Luo Yuzhang before leisurely taking my leave. The next day, I went early to plead with my mother-in-law. "Mother, my husband hasn't eaten for a whole day. I'm sure he has calmed down by now and won't spout any more nonsense that offends the palace. Please, let him out." My mother-in-law stared at the plain kanji and side dishes on the table, rubbing her forehead. "No, no, Yinga, go back." She then ordered the servants, "Keep a close watch. Do not let the young mistress or the young masters take a single step near the ancestral hall." I had no choice but to leave, glancing back repeatedly, and overheard my mother-in-law instructing the servants to bring some delicacies. As a filial daughter-in-law, every time I see my mother-in-law, I advise her to eat lightly, drink and eat less, avoid cold foods in summer, and steer clear of spicy foods in winter. In this way, by keeping delicious food from her, if she wants to indulge, she must give up enforcing the strict rules of morning and evening salutations for me. I smiled faintly and returned to my courtyard, putting on a sorrowful expression. Before long, my close friend, Fan Rongyue, the daughter of the court historian, arrived with a group of young ladies. Fan Rongyue's husband and his concubine had bribed the midwife to cause her to die in childbirth. I saved her and helped her punish the scoundrel and the wicked woman. Since then, she has felt a shared suffering with me. She never remarried and instead joined me in running shops. Now, everyone knows that a few days ago, while I was away, Luo Yuzhang splurged a fortune on elixirs. Today was supposed to be the day for calculating the shop's dividends, but I claimed to be busy and didn't go out. Naturally, Rongyue grew worried and brought her friends to see me. Rongyue advised me, "Sister Ying, since Luo Yuzhang is impotent, it should count as one of the 7 grounds for divorce. You should separate from him." I shook my head. My husband ate some elixirs and started talking nonsense. My mother-in-law locked him up for a full day and night. "I'm really worried he might starve," Fan Rongyue said anxiously. "Why can't you see things clearly?" Just then, a scream came from the direction of the ancestral hall. I immediately ran out. "Has something happened to my husband?" Fan Rongyue and the others hurried after me. I pursed my lips, somewhat looking forward to what kind of stories would circulate in the market afterward. Over the past 2 years, the folk tales mocking Luo Yuzhang have been quite popular. I no longer need to spend money commissioning people to write them. Even the scholars coming to the capital for the imperial exams found that the more sharply they satirized Luo Yuzhang in their poems, the more they were favored by noble ladies during the matchmaking sessions after the results were announced. So, there are plenty of people willing to step on him to seek fame and fortune. As far as I know, among the sisters who came with Rongyue to see me, some have already written a few of these satirical tales. My mother-in-law tried to use family matters as an excuse to make them mind their own business, but the sisters pretended not to understand and unanimously stood behind me. My eyes were fixed only on Luo Yuzhang, even as my mother-in-law stood in front of me, her eyes nearly twitching. I just cried out, "Husband, you've suffered so much. My heart aches for you." Luo Yuzhang was covered in blisters and crawling with ants. No matter how much the servants tried to clean him, they couldn't get rid of them, so they ended up splashing him with a basin of water. Luo Yuzhang was in a wretched state but unable to speak. Gradually, those present pieced together the truth. Luo Yuzhang had been hiding elixirs everywhere. In the ancestral hall, he had hidden one in a jar of honey. The previous night, he had knocked over the honey jar, accidentally attracting ants and bringing this misfortune upon himself. My mother-in-law sighed. What a sin! She looked at me. After all, he was her son, and she still felt for him. I lowered my eyes. If my husband had been in his own courtyard, he wouldn't have suffered like this. Who could have guessed that the ancestral hall, being so secluded, would harbor ants? My mother-in-law immediately fell silent. In the end, it was she who locked her own son in the ancestral hall. This time, after the doctor examined him, he said with difficulty, "The young master's throat has also been bitten by ants. These ants are highly venomous. And I'm afraid he will never be able to speak again." The mother-in-law was startled for a moment, but then a relaxed smile actually appeared on her face. Luo Yuzhang had been staring at his mother, and when he saw this, he became agitated and let out a series of ah cries. I supported Luo Yuzhang and whispered, "Your own mother has given up on you." I saw the doctor out and then sent Rongyue and her group away after they had had their fill of amusement. My mother-in-law's voice was filled with uncontrollable delight. Since things have come to this, Yuzhang's inability to speak is simply fate. "Yinga, don't be too sad, just take good care of him." I acknowledged her words. I took Luo Yuzhang back to our room and looked down at him. How does it feel to wait for death? One by one, the concubines came to see Luo Yuzhang, but none dared to care for him. After all, ever since he had become completely incapacitated, his temper had grown extremely violent. This time, Luo Yuzhang finally caught sight of his dozen or so children. A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. I sneered, "When these children grow up, they will only call me mother and thank me for feeding and clothing them. They will also resent you for your reckless behavior, which brought them so much suffering." Oh, and a few days ago, when I mentioned that a branch of my family wanted to adopt 2 of the children, your concubines all came to me, wishing their children could break free from your surname and from you as their father. So what if you have countless descendants? If no one acknowledges you, if no one offers sacrifices to you, you might as well be without heirs. Luo Yuzhang could neither speak nor write, so he could only glare at me with his eyes. I laughed heartily. Outside the door, my 2 children said, "Mother, we're back." I opened the door. "My sons, you're back from your maternal grandfather's house. Did you have fun?" The 2 boys hugged my waist. "Mother, we were having fun, but we heard that father caused trouble again." "It's nothing." Suddenly, Luo Yuzhang twisted his body and fell off the bed. I comforted the children and went over to help him up myself. "That's right, these 2 children aren't yours." I was thankful to have been reborn on the very day of my wedding. I hated Luo Yuzhang to the bone, couldn't bear to consummate the marriage with him, and absolutely refused to bear children for him. Moreover, I feared his extreme and vicious nature. As the old saying goes, like father, like son, I was afraid that even if I raised them with care, the children might naturally resemble Luo Yuzhang. So, while Luo Yuzhang was busy frequenting brothels and pleasure quarters, I carefully selected a candidate and then had children. It was strange, he already had many children, and when I first returned, he was determined to divorce me. Yet now, upon learning that these 2 children were not his own, he still flew into a rage. How easily angered. I smiled. "Siheng, Lingyun, your father is about to die." The 2 children had just turned 3 but were already very sensible. "Mother, you've suffered so much in the past. From now on, without father, your good days have finally arrived. Mother, even alive, father is nothing but a burden." Luo Yuzhang had long become a burden to everyone. Luo Yuzhang shouted something agitatedly. I soothed him. Don't worry, once you die, I'll have Su Wn buried with you immediately. Luo Yuzhang's eyes looked as if he wanted to devour me alive. I threw the 1000 character classic, which the two children used for learning characters, at him. He raised his swollen, festering fingers, grimacing in pain, but still gritted his teeth and flipped through the 1000 character classic. I watched as his finger pointed to the characters. You vicious woman, don't you dare harm Wanwan. I chuckled lightly. I am no saint. I had sympathized with Su Wn, an orphaned girl who could only rely on Luo Yuzhang. So, before the wedding in my previous life, I arranged to meet her and solemnly promised that if she wanted to be the mistress of the house, I would help her choose a good husband and provide a dowry. She said she didn't want to marry anyone else, so I prepared shops and estates in advance to give her as support, planning to present them to her after the wedding, during the ceremony for taking her as a concubine, but she came up with a vicious plan to ruin my reputation, leaving me no way out. Later, after she and Luo Yuzhang rekindled their relationship, she even tried to bribe the midwife to kill me during childbirth. I remember who that midwife was. In this life, when I wanted to deal with her, I discovered she was delivering Rongyue's baby, which allowed me to save Rongyue's life. This time, I sent Su Wn into the palace. The struggle for favor in the palace is far more brutal than in the inner household. However, the current empress is tolerant. As long as she remains obedient and knows her place, she can still live a mistress's life in the palace. But at last year's palace banquet, she deliberately spilled wine on me, planning to frame me for having an affair with a palace guard while I was changing clothes. She resented me for not fully supporting her in competing for favor, hated me for only seeking an honorary title for myself, and feared I would expose her affair with Luo Yuzhang before she entered the palace. I looked at Luo Yuzhang. Su Wn has wanted to kill you for a long time. If you die, she would only be happy. No one would know about her past. When you were still capable, I never saw you remain chaste for her. Now that you know there's no way out, who are you putting on this show of deep affection for? Luo Yuzhang's venom disease grew increasingly severe. He could only cling to life until Su Wan's birthday. These days, there have been more storybooks about him. Among the sisters who came to visit me with Rongyue that day, one was a talented woman who illustrated the storybooks with over a dozen drawings of Luo Yuzhang being bitten by ants, all incredibly vivid. The illustrated storybooks sold out as soon as they were released. I deliberately bought a few copies to show Luo Yuzhang. He was so angry he nearly exploded. My mother-in-law also saw the storybooks and was so ashamed she refused to leave the house for several days. She secretly went to the pear garden and accidentally got frightened, breaking her leg. I begged the empress for a favor, asking her to allow Su Wn to leave the palace to visit my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was both afraid and angry but dared not disobey Her Majesty. As always, I feigned deep affection. Mother, I cannot let my husband die with regrets, but do not let noble consort Wn know about my husband's condition, for fear she will worry and reveal the truth. My mother-in-law nodded. Clearly, she had always known about Luo Yuzhang and Su Wan's affair before marriage. I smiled slightly and had someone carry out Luo Yuzhang, who was barely breathing. He hunched his shoulders, trying desperately to cover the sores all over his body, but Su Wn was still terrified, her face pale. She even turned around and retched lightly. Seeing Su Wan's reaction, Luo Yuzhang shed tears. Then, ignoring the presence of the palace maids and eunuchs, he stared fixedly at Su Wn, mouthing her name silently. My mother-in-law coughed frantically, Su Wn fidgeted uneasily, and Luo Yuzhang refused to restrain himself. I deliberately whispered, with a tinge of jealousy, my husband has been calling your name repeatedly these past few days while delirious. I never expected he would still do so today. Su Wn stiffened even more. I don't know whether Luo Yuzhang was driven by uncontrollable emotion before death to express his love so wildly, or if, like in his previous life, having no hope left, he decided to drag someone down to hell with him. In any case, Su Wn ended him first. I said my mother-in-law had been coughing incessantly and, out of concern, I would personally escort her back to her room to rest. My mother-in-law kept pinching me. Yinga, have you lost your mind? How could you let them meet alone? Afraid the eunuchs and maids would catch on, she didn't dare speak loudly. I pretended not to hear. After settling my mother-in-law, I returned to the main hall. Su Wn stood there in terror. Just now, Luo Yuzhang suddenly fell and died. You killed him. I insisted on reporting it to the authorities. Su Wn didn't know that the Empress had granted me another favor, hearing that I wished I could also catch ants to bite me and test the poison myself. She arranged for the palace physicians to hold a consultation for Luo Yuzhang. The physicians had left just moments before Su Wan's carriage arrived at the Luo residence. The physicians had said that Luo Yuzhang was already unable to move. He had taken too many elixirs and was poisoned too deeply and with too many toxins. So, how could Luo Yuzhang have fallen from his wheelchair on his own? Su Wn had no defense. Moreover, I hired a coroner to examine the body. Luo Yuzhang had died from suffocation. The scented powder residue in his mouth and nose was found only on Su Wan's handkerchief. That year, while staying at a nunnery, Su Wan learned a unique skill in blending scents. The emperor loved the scents she blended, so she refused to share them with anyone. Whenever she blended or burned incense, she would dismiss all her servants and do it secretly. Su Wn was placed under house arrest. Luo Yuzhang had not yet been buried. Wang Yanci, the right middle mentor, submitted a memorial stating that Luo Yuzhang's wounds resembled the symptoms of an epidemic discovered during his mission to Tanju, and the Taoist who deceived Luo Yuzhang spoke with a Tanju accent. In my previous life, Tanju suffered a flood, followed by a rampant epidemic. Ultimately, Luo Yuzhang deliberately led infected individuals into the capital, causing many commoners to suffer. In this life, I preemptively schemed against the Tanju prefect who embezzled funds for building embankments and later misappropriated disaster relief funds. I also donated additional silver to ensure the flood discharge embankments in Tanju and other areas were completed as scheduled. Although this year's rainfall was heavier, the embankments prevented the flood from becoming a major disaster. The epidemic only broke out on a small scale, and I had already asked physicians to prepare medicine to counteract it. Wang Yanci, the right middle mentor, was one of the impoverished scholars I had previously connected with. I saved his hometown, Tanju, and gave him the credit for promptly containing the epidemic. He was more than willing to submit a memorial requesting the cremation of Luo Yuzhang's body on epidemic prevention grounds. Thanks to the paintings of Luo Yuzhang's skin ulcers by a talented female artist, the emperor approved the memorial. The empress remarked that I had always remained deeply devoted to Luo Yuzhang, so the emperor specially bestowed treasures from the inner treasury to console me. The rewards were generous because the right middle mentor stated that all of us who had contact with Luo Yuzhang needed to remain secluded at home for over 10 days to observe whether any symptoms would appear. Thus, I, my mother-in-law, all of Luo Yuzhang's children, and even the entire Luo clan were unable to see Luo Yuzhang one last time. As I said, Luo Yuzhang would turn to ashes, leaving behind only Infamy, my mother-in-law. Law was despondent for several days before trying to win me over again. With her own son dead, she had no choice but to rely on me for survival. However, I abruptly changed my attitude, accusing my mother-in-law of being unkind while also denouncing Luo Yuzhang and Su Wn, their secret affair before marriage, collusion with mountain bandits, and scheming to tarnish my chastity. I wrote a blood letter, each word dripping with anguish, expressing my disbelief that the husband I deeply loved had harbored such malicious intentions even before marriage. Despite his death, I pleaded for a divorce. As for evidence, of course, it was what I discovered while sorting through my late husband's belongings: love letters between him and Su Wn, portraits he drew of her, and tokens of their communication with the mountain bandits. Matters related to Luo Yuzhang had always attracted attention. With so many people learning of noble consort Wan's infidelity, the emperor was furious. Under thorough investigation, a bandit who had fled years ago was quickly found and testified against Su Wn. Su Wn was sentenced to death, since she had also been in contact with Luo Yuzhang, even touching his sores. The right middle mentor dutifully submitted a memorial stating that, For epidemic prevention, Su Wan should also be cremated. The emperor consented. When the empress first married him as the crown princess, someone had also tried to scheme against her chastity. No woman despises such schemes more than she does. Only when I learned that Su Wan had also turned into charred bones did I finally smile. After all, I had been reborn, and Luo Yuzhang, whom I poisoned to death, had also been reborn. There was no guarantee that Su Wan, entangled in this love-hate saga, wouldn't be reborn as well, so I went to great lengths to ensure she died thoroughly, rendering her incapable of doing anything even if reborn. The empress, feeling sorry for me, specially granted me a divorce to separate from the Luo family. In her desperation, my mother-in-law suffered a stroke. She had already broken her leg and had limited mobility on one side of her body. Now, she was half paralyzed, needing assistance for meals and using the restroom. However, without my lavish support, the Luo family's meager resources were insufficient for her medication. At this point, I righteously declared that I would still take care of my mother-in-law, Luo Yuzhang's concubines, and children. In reality, I went to tell my mother-in-law, thank you for specifically placing Luo Yuzhang in the ancestral hall. She finally saw my true colors. That night, my mother-in-law set fire to the Luo family ancestral hall, burning herself to ashes along with it. The secret wooden door mechanism I had installed when renovating the Luo residence, allowing easy access to the ancestral hall, was also completely destroyed, eliminating all evidence. In the years that followed, I raised Siheng and Lingyun alone. Both of them lived up to expectations, and gradually, no one mentioned that their father was Luo Yuzhang. I continued my business as a royal merchant. With the experience from my previous life, I managed to seize some opportunities. Most of the money I earned was donated to fund water conservancy projects or used to purchase medicinal herbs for the poor. For Luo Yuzhang's children, I supported their education according to their individual talents. Some studied the classics diligently, while others learned a trade. I maintained a cordial but not overly familiar relationship with them, avoiding both excessive closeness and enmity. As for Luo Yuzhang's concubines, I granted them the freedom to remarry or allowed them to make a living under my care. After my own divorce, Rongyue and I grew even closer. Whenever we encountered women who had been wronged, we encouraged them to seek divorce. At the very least, we urged them to see through their husband's true character and not be deceived by blind devotion. In my old age, I was still frequently invited to spring and double ninth festival banquets, where young men and women met, to help evaluate potential matches for the young women. I lived to the age of 90, an exceptionally long life. As I closed my eyes for the last time, I seemed to hear someone say, Chu Ying saved thousands of disaster victims. It was not in vain that she was granted foresight. Vaguely, I recalled how, after Luo Yuzhang caused our entire Chu family to fall ill, my parents stepped forward and volunteered to test the medicine. We donated all the stockpiled medicinal herbs. In the end, when no remedy proved effective, our family donated all our silver and pleaded with the authorities to continue treating the plague-stricken people. We also voluntarily requested that our bodies be cremated after death to prevent further spread. Was Zhuangju dreaming of being a butterfly, or was the butterfly dreaming of being Zhuangju? Rebirth, foresight, it doesn't matter. In this lifetime, I lived with enough satisfaction and vigor after hearing the two stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.